All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up. This is my boomstick. As you can see, I went ahead and followed Uncle Sniffy's advice and I got myself a shotgun. Naturally, only thing that follows is to go ahead and fire 2 blasts into the air because that's what the president told me to do, right? Patrolling the Sonoran is almost enough to make you wish for nuclear winter. So, what we've got here is a side-by-side double-barreled 12-gauge coach gun made by Cimarron, and I submit to you that maybe, just maybe, Uncle Naughty Hands was right. Maybe this sort of thing here is actually the ultimate self-defense firearm, or at least the ultimate post-apocalyptic, shit hits the fan, keeping yourself alive type of gun. You can buy guns. What are they doing out here shooting in my desert? Well, I said it before and I'll say it again. Not everything has to be super practical. You can buy guns just because they're fun, and this is a lot of fun to shoot. Like a grown-up fidget spinner, it's just, there's levers and stuff to pull on and yank on and stuff in and cock back and
bop it, twist it, pull it, bend it, flip it, extend it, load it. What? Load it. Cock it.
there's just lots of actions involved in shooting this thing. Doesn't make it super practical, of course, but it does make it a lot of fun to play with. If you want to go out to the range and just have fun shooting at stuff, the whole process of loading, cocking the hammers, shooting at the things, it's all a lot of fun. So this doesn't have automatic ejectors, doesn't have spring-loaded ejectors to yeet the cases back out. So after you fire, you have to pluck them out. With this type of shotgun, if the chambers are good and clean, you can do this bit where you use the inertia to yank them up. But I've been shooting this for a minute and you can't do that. So you got to go ahead and pluck these out of there. Let's take a look and see what kind of pattern we get out of this. Okay, well, that's a 12 gauge cylinder bore with trap loads in it, so I don't know how much I expected, but yeah, that peppered pretty much that whole thing. Not a very tight pattern. All right, next up we're gonna try one of these little Ventura mini shells. Same as a lot of companies, what was this, I think 6 pellet buckshot. Why? Because I had some. Oh, come on, do the... Oh. That's in there a little bit tighter than the birdshot was, but let's go take a look. That shot quite a bit tighter than the estate birdshot. I think is number 8, I think, 7.5. This kept all 6 pellets on there. Wad up here, obviously. That's actually not terrible, but I mean, I've seen cylinder bores shoot tighter than that. Let me shoot the left barrel on this same point of aim and see if we're hitting the same spot. All right, so this is gonna be the same ammo, that Ventura 6 pellet mini buckshot, but I'm gonna shoot it out of the left barrel and see how close the patterns are to each other, just very generally. Oh yeah, other trigger. All right. Let's go take a look. Oh yeah. And so that's more or less the same spot. Not too bad. One thing I've had a hard time doing is getting both barrels to fire at the same time. We've got separate hammers, separate triggers. We ought to be able to shoot both of these suckers off at the same time. Yet, if I just yank both of these triggers, well, there we go. I said I couldn't do it. Now I did. Cut the crap out of my finger too. Trying to demonstrate how it wouldn't happen and not being as careful as I could have been. Guess I can get both of them to go at the same time. All right, well, I'm gonna try to make another shot at firing both barrels at the same time, and hopefully I don't slice myself up again. So when you pull both of these triggers, the rear one seems to come down quite a bit further, and that allowed my middle finger to get up underneath it, and it rode right along there and put a pretty decent little boo-boo in there. If you're shooting it like you're not an idiot and you're just pulling one trigger at a time, that doesn't really happen because of the angle that you're pulling back at. But me, trying to be an idiot, I'm trying to get both of these in here to get them both go at the same time. I'm thinking if I get more knuckle in there, because I had it about here, if I get it further, if I really bury those fingers in there, I think I can make this happen without hurting myself. Either that, or y'all get to see more blood. We'll see what happens. Let me kind of think about it this time. All right, here goes. Well, it wasn't quite simultaneous. I think you could probably hear two separate shots, but I definitely didn't gash myself open again. So let me try one more time. See if I can get these to go off at exactly the same time this time. Man, that's hard to get them to go. It's hard to get myself to break both sears at exactly the same moment. I'll tell you one thing. I really would not want to try to shoot both of these barrels with high brass hunting loads. Because just with these little trap loads, it's already pretty intense. All right, so this next part's a little bit different. We're gonna use this little 22 conversion, which I got from gunadapters.com because I fired off a whole mess of emails to several different companies that make what for converting devices, and they were the ones that replied. So thank you for sending this out to me. I always wanted to know how these sort of things work in practice, so we're going to give it a shot here. One of the things I want to find out is how well does it maintain zero after you remove it and put it back in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line it up as best I can, probably serve to give a little explanation here anyway. 22 is rim fire, of course, and that means that we have to figure out a way to get the rim of the 22 to line up with the center of this bore. So they bored the 22 barrel in this conversion unit eccentric to the bore. That lines up the firing pin with the rim of the 22 cartridge. But that also means that it's not going to go into the barrel the exact same way every time. And there's nothing that it can index on unless you machined it for a very specific shotgun. For it to be more or less universal and for them to not have to manufacture a bazillion different models of this thing, it's made in the same dimensions as if it were a shotgun shell without some other indexing feature, which means I have to just line this thing up. So I'll stick this sucker in there, and as best I can by eyeball, you could totally put some witness marks on here to make it perfect, because you could take a scribe and make a line to make sure that it lines up precisely the same way every time, but I'm just gonna eyeball it. That looks pretty close. And then I'm gonna fire a 5-round group, mark it, take it out, put it back in, more or less by eyeball, and see if the group moves at all. Let me go take a look real quick, make sure it's on paper and all that. Oh yeah, yeah, that's looking real nice. That would be a dead rabbit. All right, so there's of course no extractor or anything, so we got to just reach in there and pluck the sucker out with our booger pickers. All right, let's head on over there and take a look. Not bad. Of course, the darn thing doesn't have a rear sight, so you can't expect all that much from it. But like I said, that would be a dead rabbit, at this distance anyway. Okay, so we're going to remove the conversion unit. And you noticed that was pretty quiet, but maybe not super quiet if you're comparing to a .22 rifle, except this is a little pistol barrel that this is coming out of, essentially a pistol length barrel. About the same size as maybe a longish Mark II, right? I'll have to look it up, but I think this is a 6-inch barrel. I don't know. That's what I tell my wife anyway. So normally out of a .22 pistol, it'll be just right out, dancing on that pain threshold. Whereas a .22 rifle is usually fairly comfortable for most people. This lies a little bit quieter than a regular .22 rifle, which I think is pretty neat. It's not a suppressor or anything, but it acts like a really large blast can, like those Noveski flaming pigs from back in the day, and it just directs all of that noise over that way, keeping your ear a little bit more comfortable to shoot. It's pretty fun. So I'll go ahead and line this thing back up. Can you all see that? I think that's pretty close. About where I had it. If anything, I think that's pretty close. We'll see. We'll see. All right. Rounds are marked. Another 5 rounds. Sand it. I just can't get over the comical nature of feeding these tiny little bullets into this big, huge gun. Oh yeah, that's exactly the same group. I mean, it's not a fantastic group for this distance for a .22, but it doesn't have a rear sight, so what do you want from me? that is right on top of the other group, demonstrating that, yeah, you can totally take this conversion out, put it back in, and have it still get some meat. Get the meat, leather. All right, so next up is another one I'm kind of curious about, because this is going to be 12 gauge to 20 gauge. So we got the conversion itself, of course. It drops right in there. Then you hit the lever, pop it open. This doesn't have a spring-loaded extractor. It'll just extract just enough for you to grab hold of it, which would be kind of annoying on a shotgun that had automatic ejectors. Losing your conversion unit over your shoulder every time you fired wouldn't be so fun. You can, with these 20 gauge ones, you can flip them out pretty quick. Let me show you what a cartridge looks like in this adapter, because there is not a lot of room to develop velocity out of this. However, I think that once it gets out of this into the 12 gauge bore, I think that as the wad expands, I think the wad will give a little gas seal. I think it'll get a bit of a free bore boost out of this, as it were, but that's what it looks like in the adapter. I'm really curious how much this pattern opens up, and we're also going to get these all on chronograph too, and see what kind of velocity we're getting out of these things. Before we run up and take a look at the target, I just want to show you the crimp on this shotgun shell expanded exactly. Can we get you focus, you channel my AVE? The crimp on this 20 gauge shell expanded exactly to the end of this adapter. It drops right out though. Let's take a look. Okay, I mean, that's not really any worse than the 12 gauge was. You can see the edges of the pattern are going to be, in fact, if anything, it might actually be a little bit tighter than the 12 gauge was. That's not bad at all. Okay, so next up is going to be 28 gauge, which is going to be like that. Cute little guy, somewhere between 410 and 20 gauge, if this camera will bother to focus on it. So the 20 gauge fit in quite loosely enough that it would fall out by gravity. This is a little bit tighter fit, and that could be because of the load that I'm choosing or the day that it happened to be on, or who knows. But for what it's worth, this one stays in there. So let's take a shot and see what the 28 gauge does on the paper. All right, let's go down there and take a look. Yeah, I'd say that's more or less the same as the 20 gauge. We do see a little bit more pellets out around the edges, but I'd say that's pretty close. Of course, that could easily come down to brand or load or just a million other variables, probably not related to what gauge is being used.
So I just want to tell you that I don't need to either kick a watermelon off or smash one on this table with that hammer over there, because it doesn't have style. I'd rather close my show just stepping off proud. But I might... might do it as an encore.
Yes. Woo! That seemed spicier. I love you.